Well, the informal has become formal again. Mr. Putin has been ruling Russia as prime minister after having ruled it for 8 years previously as president. Now he wants to be the formal ruler, as well as someone who wields the power, the ultimate power in the land. So for a lot of people, this is the end of the tandem, which for some was an encouragement. For other people, it was a source of confusion. Yet other people thought that it was all a set-up job. So now we see a situation in which Putin, again, is the person to refer to. And this has its minuses, but it has some pluses as well. Well, the minuses are as follows. Mr. Putin is fairly well known. The question that was once asked, I think it was in 2000 at Davos, who is Mr. Putin, is no longer a relevant question. Mr. Putin is a very well-known person. And alas, a lot of people think that he will probably not be able to change, to reinvent himself in order to be able to effectively deal with the challenges that are facing Russia. On the other hand, he is someone who has been there for a long period of time. He is someone who still commands the supreme authority in the top echelons of Russian power. He is someone who is still popular among the bulk of the electorate. We know a little bit about, quite a bit about Putin, right? And in that sense, he is predictable. But the other side of the same coin is that this predictability probably tells us that old medicine and old solutions will be offered for new issues, for new problems that Russia is facing, and and a lot of people are saying that it's not sufficient, it's not adequate. I don't believe that Putin's return will necessarily negatively affect the U.S.-Russian relationship. The reset has always had the support of Putin. Medvedev was given a go-ahead by Putin to reach out to Obama and the administration in Washington. However, the reset is something which will not be sustained automatically. It will require an effort in both countries, in both capitals. For many people outside of Russia, Putin is a very negative figure, and some people would hesitate to do much business with Mr. Putin. In some ways, the reset only became possible because Putin was not the formal head of the Russian state at the time of Obama's inauguration. And that made it easier to reach out to the Kremlin for the United States. And again, since it requires a lot of trying, this reset, some people may say, why should we continue trying? We have this guy who we don't think is a good guy. He was issued the black hat by much of the media in the Western world years ago. So why should we continue trying? It's worthless. So it will it could. This is the danger. It could destimulate people in the United States and more broadly in the West in trying to improve the relationship between Russia and the United the United States and Russia and Western Europe. So that's one danger. Another danger is that on the Russian side, that a lot of people in Russia see Putin as a hardliner whose return to power, although he never left, whose return to power signals that you need to take a harder line. You need to adopt harsher rhetoric, and you need to adopt less cooperative position vis-a-vis the United States and some other countries across the board. And they will believe that that's what Putin wants, and that's how they should behave in this new political era in Russia and its new relations with the United States. So those are the dangers. I think it's very important that Putin shows himself as someone who is committed to continuing to improve U.S.-Russian relations, someone who wants the relationship to outlive its Cold War baggage or Cold War environment in which part of the relationship is still stuck. It will be difficult to do for Putin, and yet certain things I believe could be useful markers or could be useful areas for immediate and short-term progress. One of those things is the WTO accession, and should that happen until the end of this year, should that be consummated in 2012, that will be a good start for a new period in U.S.-Russian relations, or let's say that'll be a good start for a new Russian presidency as far as U.S.-Russian relations are concerned. And also we need to keep up the dialogue on missile defense cooperation, fully realizing that an agreement on missile defense cooperation will probably take a very long time and a lot of effort to be accomplished. But one needs to keep on trying. One needs to keep the whole process going. Otherwise, a very good opportunity for reversing the strategic relationship, for changing the continued adversity in U.S.-Russian relations, replacing it with cooperation at strategic level. That window of opportunity will not be used. That chance will be missed. Well, I think it does have the ability to affect the global balance of power. It has fewer resources than the Soviet Union had, but it still has a nuclear arsenal that is on a par with that of the United States. Of course, we're not thinking very much today about nuclear balances and nuclear relationships, but it's still there. It's at the back of people's minds. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was talking about the two biggest external dangers to the United States. He named cyber warfare and the Russian capability to utterly destroy the United States. So it's there. We don't talk about that. We don't even think about that. The Cold War is 20 years dead, but it's there as a factor. Russia is also the world's leading energy producer, and it's oil, but it's also natural gas. That's important. Russia is also the home to a lot of natural wealth in this world, and that affects new post-Cold War international relations more than it affected international relations during or before the Cold War. Russia is also a repository of perhaps the the largest body of fresh water in the world. So that's important. It has a puny share of the global economy. It's 2%. It has a puny share of the global population, again, something like 2%. But because it still considers itself strategically independent, and this is what the Russians mean when they call themselves or their country a great power. It's not so much to dominate other countries, but rather it is not to let other countries dominate Russia. And strategic independence in today's world means independence of the two principal players. One of them is the United States, the other one is China. So Russia sees itself as an independent strategic player, and that is important for the global balance, clearly. There'll be no return to the Russian Empire. The Russian Empire is RIP. It's dead, never to return. It's a museum, it's history. For some people, it's a source of glory, as you know, there are people in the UK who think about the glorious days of the British Empire, and there are and there will be Russians who will regard their imperial past with a lot of pride. And indeed, empires historically have contributed to human advancement in various ways. Of course, they were oppressive creatures and in the long run unsustainable. But that's a different story. No, but there is no return. There's no will, and there are no resources. And the world has turned very far from where it was when the empire, the Soviet Empire, which is the historical empire of Russia, collapsed 20 years ago. So there's no return. The interesting thing, though, is that a lot of people in Russia, if you listen to what they're saying, a lot of people in Russia, and a lot of people in the countries close to Russia, from Tallinn to Tbilisi, and maybe a lot of people in a few other places, they're still talking as if the empire were there, or as if the empire were to be resurrected. For some people, I think this is what they actually feel. For other people, this is something that they believe could be useful. But my judgment is very clear. There's no Russian Empire, and it's not coming back. Well, it's an extremely difficult question. I think they need first to stop thinking exclusively about their own interests, because you have an elite which has risen, but it doesn't lead. It doesn't want to lead. It's only concerned with itself, with its riches, but it's not concerned with the country. And at the level of society as a whole, there's fairly little feeling of togetherness. So you have a country which is not a nation. Russia has ceased to be an empire, and it has not yet become a nation. So that's important. And it's important that the elites assume their responsibility for leading. It's not for nothing that they have access to power and riches and other things. They need to lead in a quid pro quo with society as a whole. So this is absent. And that has everything to do with the all-important question of corruption. So that is number one. Number two is the Russian economic system, and the Russian economic system needs to be freed from all sorts of monopolies that exist there. And it should also be freed from the very unholy alliance that the economic agents have established with the political masters. So there's a merger of power and money. And this merger is strangling both the economy and the polity of Russia. So that bond needs to be severed. And if the people of Russia start thinking of themselves not only as consumers, which they have become over the last 20 years, but also as citizens, then there's a chance that Russia may become a republic in the most literal sense of the word, a res publica, a common cause that unites people. So this is not there, and I think that the most important thing that would result from the changes that I have described would be the passage from the present arbitrary rule to the rule of law in Russia. The rule of law could and should be the basis for Russia's rebirth. And that, I think, is the way forward.